All right, hey VC, I'm Jamie. Welcome back, and we're back with recent vinyl finds. I got another stack of wax to take a look at, so let's get right to it. First off, we got an Australian band, Mental as Anything, and the album Cats and Dogs, and this is from 1983. Great rock and early '80s stuff. Fun band. And yeah, certainly remember when this album came out. This one's still in the shrink and still with the original price tag. That was purchased, I believe, at Towers. That's not to be confused with Tower Records. There used to be the department store, Towers Department Store. So yeah, this is it's just fun music overall. That sort of late '70s, early '80s kind of rock and stuff. Canadian pressing. So some of the song listing is different from the actual Australian album. I think they took some songs from earlier albums that were not available and put them on this one, sort of thing. But what was interesting on a side note for this one, that this came with some descriptions or some notes about the music. I'm not sure who put these together, like describing each of the songs from side one and side two, either a hit or nice or fast, extra fast. I'm not exactly sure why. And then also this note, and this is new album Creatures of Leisure, due out August 25th, 1983, Mental as Anything. So not sure. And this is on the back of the actual bill from Towers Department Stores that includes the album as the top item, probably also purchasing coffee or I think it says peanuts here. So on the list of items to pick up at the department store. Okay, Mental as Anything. It was fun to pick that one up. Canadian band Chilliwack. We've talked about this band. Great Canadian band, certainly through the '70s, early '80s. This is their album Opus 10, their 10th album. This came out in 1982. What You Gonna Do is a big hit on this one. By this time, they were a trio. Bill Henderson here, the main person behind Chilliwack, but also along with Ryan McLeod and Ab Bryant. But it was interesting. They're doing a lot of hits, certainly in the early '80s. But it was after this album that these two members left the band to immediately join the Headpins. And Chilliwack were never quite the same after that. Bill Henderson carried on, but yeah, the Chilliwack was just, the band was just never quite the same after that. And certainly not as many hits down the road, but also on the Solid Gold label. Okay, I was pleased to pick this one up. This is the first album that's actually in a series of albums about the Toronto Rock and Roll Revival 1969. This is volume one that features the band Chicago. And the Rock and Roll Revival show was a big concert that also, of course, featured John Lennon performing. But Chuck Berry was at this concert, also Chicago. Alice Cooper performed at this concert, and I believe that was the concert with the infamous chicken incident with Alice Cooper. But this is Chicago in concert. So this is 1970. Chicago are absolutely on fire on this one. This is not high fidelity, certainly at its finest, but it's well worth listening to overall. Not too many details, just on the Accord label. And this is part of a series. So this is volume one. Chuck Berry, they have a couple of volumes from Chuck Berry. I believe Bo Diddley is also featured in this as well. But yeah, I was pleased to come across that Chicago from 1969 performing in Toronto. Picked up a Best of Spirit, interesting Spirit in the news. I guess they lost their appeal with Led Zeppelin with regards to Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. They felt it sounded way too much like the song Taurus from Spirit, although that song is not featured on this Best of, but overall it's a great Best of on Epic. Can't go wrong. And okay. U2's Rattle and Hum. Certainly remember when this first came out. I recall the amount of people that didn't like it. In terms of, I think people were not quite expecting a double album for the movie soundtrack. Maybe felt it was a bit padded. I've always thought it would be interesting to pare this down to a single album. Maybe take out some of the live cover songs, focus more on the studio tracks, that sort of thing. I think as a single album, this would have worked tremendously well. Having said that, as a double album, I still really enjoy it. I think it's a great album. Certainly in retrospect, I can certainly remember at the time because they were featuring a couple of tracks from the Joshua Tree that really weren't that old, that had just recently been put out before this. But this features the Nice cardboard sleeves, and then whoops, and then you got the faces and all the albums there. But yeah, it's so nice to add as a U2 fan to have this in the collection. And BB King playing on this. Forgot that Bob Dylan was also featured on this album. And like that. So yeah, U2 and Rattle and Hum. Nice to have that. Okay, very pleasant surprise in the world of prog rock, picking up Peter Sinfield's album, Still. Peter Sinfield, original lyricist with King Crimson. Absolutely love this cover, and great album overall. And this is on the Matacore label that featured ELP and nice gatefold. Nice and proggy overall, but I was thrilled to come across this title. Okay. And a little bit more prog rock for you. We've got Nectar, and this is a tab in the ocean. You've likely seen this on the VC. This is the legendary LP, never before released in Canada, Nectar, a tab in the ocean. Usually the cover doesn't feature this, and this isn't a sticker. This is actually right on, printed right on the album. But this is great. It's great proggy stuff. Absolutely love it. And I love the label too, Passport. That is a cool label. Okay, we've got a beautiful album that doesn't get a lot of props, maybe on the VC. The soundtrack to Local Hero, music by Mark Knopfler. Loved when the film came out in 1983, and the soundtrack is absolutely beautiful. Almost forgot that Jerry Rafferty has a track on here as well, sings a song, but just a beautiful album. Pretty much most of the Dire Straits crew on this, but an absolutely lovely album. Beautiful music. And yeah, this is the actual inner sleeve, because the number here does correspond, but it's just a simple black sleeve, but there you go. Okay, moving right along. He recently appeared on Saturday Night Live as a musical guest, talking about David Byrne and Talking Heads, more songs about buildings and food. You know, absolutely love Talking Heads. What more can you say? I mean, such a great band. This one from 1978. Such a great band. And continuing in the basic black sleeves. And of course Hans Sire. Okay, another greatest hits that I picked up. The Chamber Brothers, because I don't have any Chamber Brothers on vinyl in my collection, and was thrilled to see that this does include the full-length version of Time Has Come Today, so it's not like the single edit version. Man, this band, a lot of soul, but man, could they rock as well. It was that nice combination. The Chamber Brothers, very underrated group. So this has, yeah, Time Has Come Today. I love their version of In the Midnight Hour. I Can't Turn You Loose, the Otis Redding track. People Get Ready. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Fantastic. Sometimes it's hard to come across albums from Tok Tok. They seem to get snapped up quickly, but thankfully I was able to grab The Color of Spring, which of course features Life's What You Make It. Such great production overall. I'd always been a fan of Tok Tok, but really, really nice album. This is on EMI. And this features Peter Dunn's Vinyl Museum. This used to be an area record store. They had stores, it looks like, both in Florida and in Toronto. I guess it's part of the... Love that. Cool cats there. But it does include the original inner sleeve, which I'll just pop out here for you. Oops. But yeah, Tok Tok, great band. Okay, something completely different, shall we? How about Tim Curry's Read My Lips? Tim Curry did put out a couple of solo albums. Of course, great actor from Rocky Horror, and of course we know all the other movies that he's done. This one has quite the Canadian connection. It was produced by Bob Ezrin, and much of it recorded in Toronto. And it features an incredible list of guest stars. Like you get Tim Curry lead vocals, also Dick Wagner from the Alice Cooper bands featured on here. Gosh, you've also got, as mentioned, Bob Ezrin also plays on here. Lee Michaels on keyboards. Nils Lofgren's on here. Like, nice. Yeah, slight tear in the sleeve, but he also does a cover of Birds of a Feather, which was Rough Trades, certainly a signature song. High School Confidential, of course, also one of their big songs, but certainly Birds of a Feather was one of their certainly big songs initially in their career. So Tim Curry did a nice cover. And we're going to wrap it up with Rory Gallagher or Gallagher, depending on how you pronounce it. Rory was thrilled because Rory Gallagher albums are getting harder and harder to find. Live in Europe, just these albums keep getting snatched up, and oh, so great. And on Polydor. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for dropping by. We'll chat again.